So I'm going to do a little bit of a different video. I'm just here with my coffee right now and just contemplating on the ideas of no one to change but self. And I want to just elaborate a little bit more on it. And all of this is coming down to this one singular point when it comes to applying the law, which is to change oneself. So I have videos about, not conditioning or using the feeling of I am, which is a present tense feeling, or not thinking in terms of time, or trying to resist the urge to ask the questions of when and how. All of these things are to change yourself in the most effective way. Because the moment you condition yourself and you think you have to have some physical actions, and you condition yourself into thinking that if I don't have these physical actions, then I haven't changed myself, or if I haven't, if I haven't seen the results yet, then I have not changed. That's not what we're doing. We're changing the imaginal man. And Neville, I always give this over and over again, but it's the simplest way of explaining it, which is you imagine yourself on a bench, and you're tied to this bench, or you have chains attached to this bench, so you're locked in, you can't move. And then you imagine yourself running. You want to be free, but you're not. And then instead of imagine yourself like undoing the shackles or finding the key for it, you just imagine yourself running. So the imaginal man, in this case, was bound, is now running. It's free. They didn't need to do anything other than run. And so that's what we're doing. And we cannot condition ourselves. And I didn't say this in the last video, but so you don't give up on yourself, you change yourself. And to change yourself effectively is you don't condition yourself upon the change. You allow yourself to be completely different without the need to have something satisfied before, which is like a question or these types of ideas that, well, how do I really know I've changed states? Well, you would know if you're imagining from the state. That's how you know you changed. And that's what all of this is leading to. So if you're not changing yourself, and you're trying to change other people, or you're just trying to manifest objects, which you can manifest objects, but you're going to take yourself with you everywhere. That's your character that you're building in this world. And you can imagine whatever you want, but I would advise you to imagine things that help you live a peaceful and happy life. And the best way I could do that is if you start to give yourself what you want on the inside. You start to live from the positions that you want. Any other thing that you're doing, Neville used to always say, don't tell me what you don't want, tell me what you want. And I'm 100% in the category of somebody who has used their imaginations many, many times to imagine things I don't want. It's very difficult for the individual who has imagined what they don't want for many, many years to make the change and switch to imagining what they do want. And again, I'm not asking you to imagine what you want as far as like some people will sit around all day wondering what they would do if they won the lottery. That's not exactly what I'm talking about. I've seen those people. I'm speaking more from the direction of where are you thinking from? That's thinking about the lottery. But what are you thinking from? What positions do you think from there in your day? I know for me, in my case, I wasn't thinking from positions that really were uplifting at all. In fact, I thought from positions that were low, and then all my thoughts would confirm it. And then naturally, I would behave in the way that I'm thinking and feeling to confirm what I'm doing. And it doesn't even matter if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is. We're prophesying ourselves. We are always praying and prophesying ourselves. So that's what we change. It's the most important thing to us is ourself. And so you learn to let go of... And it's a release when you let go of trying to change people. It's a freedom. You sort of realize that they themselves will have to change themselves as well. Now you can imagine for them And it's easy to imagine for someone, in my opinion, than it is to imagine for yourself. Because when you imagine for yourself, there could be so much more anxiety involved. But really, again, the anxiety that's there when you go to change yourself it's your belief that it won't work. But it's not about it working. It's about the imaginal man's perspective. If you could just see from the imaginal man's perspective, which it already has worked. If my imagination is what is the cause of my life, I have to change my imagination. And I change it by really accepting the perspective of what my imaginal man sees, or what my divine eyes see. I just believe in those. The same way I would believe sort of with my physical eyes. I just kind of look at it. I hear it. I don't do anything other than the basic what I would do here. If I'm in a conversation with someone, I'm just listening to them. I'm not doing anything other than listen. Same is true if I hear a friend in my mind tell me something wonderful about themselves. What sweat is it off my back? I'm the imaginal man. What it doesn't cost me anything. It doesn't take any of my time. People ask me all the time, can you imagine for me? And I just do it. I don't wonder if it's going to work after. I just do it. I do what I'm supposed to do, which is imagine it. And I just imagine hearing it. That's it. And I move on. And people always think it can't be that simple, but there's a story where a lady came to see Neville, and she lost all her, I think she lost her piano and all her items on a move, and she wanted it back. And so he sat down for a second, just imagined her having those things back, and he got up and was like, okay, it's done. And she was like, that can't be just it. And he's like, yeah, that's it. It's that simple. And then she ended up getting her piano back. She bumped into the person who stole it. But it's a good example as to what I mean when you imagine for people. It should be quite simple. There shouldn't be much doubt. It should just be that you do it. Just hear it. Just do it. And you just do that every day. And you change the structure of your imagining, or the nature of it, which is usually what you're doing is you're imagining desires. You're imagining being in hell inside, which is to be in desires. To feel, or you imagine being stuck inside. Again, it's sort of like you're imagining yourself. If you're stuck inside of a state, you're sort of imagining yourself stuck on that bench that I mentioned in the beginning, that Neville spoke about. It's sort of like you're sort of imagining yourself completely stuck there, and you're not imagining yourself running. It's like you have lost the plot of all of this, that you're the dreamer, that this bench is not independent, that the people inside of you are not. When you have a dream, nobody there is independent. It may appear that way. I recently had a dream where I became conscious in the dream, and everything felt just like this world, but it's not. It's not. It's completely dependent on me, the dreamer. Now, it doesn't feel that way in the moment, and that's what I'm trying to say, that's what you want to mimic when you imagine things. You almost want to mimic it in a sense where, although it's rooted in you and it's dependent upon you, you almost experience it as if it's independent. That is what I mean, because that's the most natural order of things here. That's how it feels in the flesh. And so you have a friend tell you something good. You hear it with your ears just the same way you would hear it with your fleshly ears. You're just kind of tuning into something a bit beyond what the senses see. And so can you believe beyond your senses? And it's that simple. But to believe above your senses can be a challenge for those who take everything the senses say and do as fact. And so we start to control our imaginations and let that become our evidence and our fact. And we live upon the truth of our imagination. And truth here is prophesied. It's something that is planted and it grows and it sprouts. And, it's like a cup that we're pouring, and then eventually we have to drink it. That's what we do here. Everything is a symbol for the imagination. So you look, you go somewhere. I remember my grandmother used to always have all these birds in a cage, and I never understood it. I never understood why you put a bird in a cage. I could never get it. And then I saw, oh, well, that's my mind right there. A mind that conditions themselves to not change, or puts all these conditions in instead of just changing themselves into what they wanted to be. A mind that imagines limitations is a bird in its cage. It's the same thing. It's just a symbol. The you on the inside, you want to imagine fulfillments. It's your desire. It's what you want to do. You want to awake. It's what you want. And we will awake within the body. We don't awake outside of it. This is our bed that we lay and we sleep. And eventually we will awake. But I don't want this to go on for too long. I like to keep these around 10. So maybe I'll do a couple more that are... I would like to do an hour talk one day. I'd have to gather some material. But yeah, if you're interested in my one-on-ones, you can just email me and you'll get all the details for that. And just remember that it's about changing oneself. That's not about changing another. Come back to self on the inside. And you change what you change what your eyes see, your divine eyes. You change what your ears hear. It's something, for me, very peaceful. It's very relaxing. It's very freeing. Sometimes it energizes me and motivates me, and it inspires me. But a lot of the time, it's a very calm feeling. I wouldn't say it's exaggerated. It's usually very subtle, soothing, and calm. And, the same thing happens to me that happened to Neville. Somebody asked him, when you imagine, do you, I noticed that you sort of have, like your head sort of tilts side to side. Does that mean anything? And Neville was like, no, it means nothing. Don't worry about that. And that happens to me too. I noticed that when I'm really sort of immersing myself, as Neville said, you crowd all other ideas out of the mind and you solely focus on your wish fulfilled, you might have some sort of physical response. And for me, I sort of get a subtle smile and my head will sometimes turn. That's just what happens. I wouldn't say for me, it confirms that I feel like I've immersed myself well into the dream. It's felt real enough to me for me to do that, for me to have that reaction. Neville said not to worry about it, but for me, I've noticed that I don't really focus on it. That's what he should have said. Don't focus on getting there. Focus on the wish fulfilled, because that will come from focusing on immersing yourself in the dream. And that's just sort of a confirmation for me within my own self that it's sort of a reaction that happens. You sort of feel the independence of the wonderful dream, and it sort of awakens within you this feeling of freedom and of acceptance. And you feel changed, and you go upon trusting what you did. You trust entirely in what you imagined, and you live entirely upon trust. And when you live upon trust, it's like there's no doubts. You can't doubt. It's a trust. Your trust is an acceptance that you don't know it all, but you're trusting in it completely. I don't know, but I trust in what I've imagined. I saw the end, and I trust in the end. That's what I trust in. Thank you for listening.